A successful business doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and persistence, which is exactly what the Coffee and Hustle podcast is all about. Hi, this is Carla Stiles from the Coffee and Hustle podcast, and today I had Peyton Guy from H2O Solutions, and we talked about cybersecurity, all the things that go along with that, including some networking ideas for those that are trying to get into the industry, along with some really cool ideas about his conspiracy theory and some random generalization about who he is and what he is going to be doing in his field. Hello, and welcome to the Coffee and Hustle podcast. In today's episode, we'll be discussing intergenerational communication. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you got that right. Intergenerational communication.
So I'm so excited. I have got the one and only Peyton Guy here from H2L Solutions.
It's good to be here. It's great. I love your office. I love your little podcast space. It's really beautiful. You got to have more people come in here. Maybe do a little video.
I think we should do some more video.
That'd be great.
Now that you brought that up, I think we should just continue to build this podcast that is becoming it is today. So you are a junior cybersecurity engineer with H2L Solutions.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what H2L Solutions does for this community.
Yeah, so H2L Solutions, we're a cybersecurity company based here in Huntsville. We help other companies with their cybersecurity posturing. So if they have to work for the government, have to reach a certain level of cyber awareness or whatever, we kind of help companies reach their goal. We also do some government contracting as well. So we're kind of all over the place, but as far as cyber goes, we're the people for it.
So H2L Solutions, and I think this is probably my third cybersecurity podcast, which is, I think maybe that's a nerd alert for me. So
yeah, especially in the world of Huntsville, cyber is such an important subject. So I think that where we are right now, and honestly, just sort of the United States in general at this point, cyber is a huge topic of conversation.
So for H2L Solutions, you guys are now a HUBZone and a service-disabled veteran cybersecurity company based here in Huntsville.
Yes.
But you guys do a lot of work all over the place. So Huntsville is the base, but do y'all have smaller places as well? Where are some of your extensions?
Yeah, so we have people in Michigan, we have people in Colorado Springs, and I think Mississippi as well. There may be a few other locations as well, but that's kind of, we're mostly here in Huntsville though. So.
Now, so you're a junior cybersecurity. Where did you start with H2L Solutions?
I was actually an unpaid intern going into my experience at H2L. So I kind of climbed the ladder a little bit, got to where I am now. Of course, I'm not, at the very top, but I'm very comfortable with where I'm at, especially considering I'm in college.
So now you're like a big dog, is that what you're saying?
I definitely would not consider myself a big dog, but I definitely do. I'm doing what I love, and that's important to me.
Well, that's called hard work, and so you started as an unpaid, knowing the fact that you were an unpaid, but you continue on the path of success.
Yes.
So that's commitment.
Absolutely, yeah. It went from being all about the experience to loving the people there to loving the work that I was doing, and then just kind of growing from there. And I'm really happy with where I'm at now. I kind of owe a lot of my progress right now to H2L. So I'm very happy.
How did you get in touch with them? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How did your intern start with H2L Solutions?
So I actually reached out to them. I heard about them through somebody I met that also went to UAH. So I kind of reached out to them and I said, hey, you guys offering any internships? And they said, yeah, we've got this position here. And so I applied, and they liked me enough, and I liked them enough, so yeah.
So how important is the internships to get into this field at this point? Because that's, I think a lot of people are now going to school, getting this degree.
Right.
How do they reach out to people to see if they have internships at this point?
Degrees are super, super important, but a degree can't really quite get you the same level of experience quite that experience does. We have, UAH offers a great cybersecurity program, but if you don't have that actual hands-on experience of knowing what it's like to work in the government sector especially, I believe that unpaid internships are important as long as you're getting the experience that you're getting sought after. And I think H2L does the perfect job of doing that. So. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very fortunate that you were able to get into a company that's helped you along your way. And
absolutely.
You've learned a lot, I assumed, and you're still a student. You're still a student. and they work around your schedule.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. I know in the fact that a company does that for you, that's almost like a family vibe for you, right?
For sure, absolutely. It's very much like a family. And I know some people kind of consider like a whenever people say, oh, it's like a family here, people think that it may be, a red flag or whatever, but to me it's not. At least not at H2L. The only thing that I've experienced at H2L has been nothing but kindness, understanding, generosity, and just they have totally helped me grow as a person, as a professional, and just kind of in general with their company, and I owe them a great deal.
Well, that's great. And then you guys were just awarded the Inc. 5000 for 2021.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a big achievement for you guys because
sure.
You are considered now America's fastest growing private company. And you're and you're like the only Alabama-based security firm to be recognized for that.
Yes, yeah, we're very fortunate to be included in that. We've grown quite a bit over the past 3 years, and I think that we're so super excited. We're moving into a new building. It's a little bit nicer. It's a little bit more modern.
And it's got hardwood floors.
Yeah, it's got hardwood floors, which I'm really excited about. I mentioned
that's awesome. That's the one thing that you can be excited about. Like, hey, I'm going into a company. Hey, do they have good floors?
Yeah. It's kind of like the de facto standard for high quality.
Yeah, high quality. So for you, we're going to talk about intergenerational communication. Can you give us a little bit of background? What does that mean to people like me?
So intergenerational communication is important, especially in the cyber field, because you have this very fascinating mixture of young people, young budding interested people in technology, people that are interested in technology, and the more experienced that are more familiar with your traditional engineering, things like that, government workers, military, all that kind of stuff. You have this awesome mixture that can be complex at times because you have these people that are familiar with newer technology and the ways that you're kind of excited to disrupt the old sort of status quo, but you also have the more experienced, which are able to...
Well, we call those seasonal.
Seasonal, right. Yeah, exactly. I wanted to avoid the word older because they're not older people. They're
just seasonal.
Yeah, exactly. Seasonal. I think that's probably...
You're okay. You can use that word. Seasonal.
Yeah, the more seasonal people. I think they're...
Well, I think there's definitely an overlap in our generation right now,
yes.
especially in the technology field, and that includes marketing as well. And I believe that we've got it's almost like you've got this really young generation that's coming in and they've grew up with technology.
Yes.
Whereas we've learned by doing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that, don't you see there's got to be this communication piece that's got to be happening.
For sure. And I think that there's been kind of a large discrepancy. I think the internet has a lot to do with that, but there's been a large discrepancy between the communication of younger people and older people, and it's important to bridge the gap so that we're able to kind of communicate better and kind of start to understand each other better.
Well, I think that it's like if you're willing to be open to that communication with each other, learn from each other, right, and then be able to figure out a way what can work for your business, what doesn't work for your business.
Right.
But I think that's important to really understand that. But what do you see what is the biggest challenges in cybersecurity that you see right now? So
right now, if I had to pick one thing, I believe for most companies, ransomware has been such a huge topic. You see these attacks in the news all the time, and the reason is because it's super common. It's really easy for an attacker to get a hold of good ransomware and leverage it against your typical, pretty much any business. You're able to maybe not target. It doesn't have to be hyper targeted. But
in some ways, though, it's the company's responsibility to create that knowledge base with all their employees what you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't do. And that's something that is also your responsibility to reach out to those companies that says, hey, these are the newest things that we need to be aware of.
Right.
Do you do that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. H2L is, we're heavily, heavily involved with the community, and that's one of the things that we're super proud of, is we consistently try to release all these new information. I have been on the news a few times talking about attacks that happen on...
Does that mean you're famous? Am I actually interviewing someone that's famous? This is awesome.
Yeah,
okay,
no, this is it's good. I actually have my limo is coming.
I'll get my I'll get an autograph from you later.
Yeah, of course. Well, I've got it up.
Oh, matter of fact, you have it on my wall already. So.
Yeah, actually, you're gonna have to pay for that. That's about $40.
Yeah, it's keep dreaming. So with cybersecurity, as high as it is there's different parts in the cyber community that people should know about, and especially for the younger generation, where is the most needed field? I mean, what part of the field is there that's important right now?
Everywhere. I don't want to say that that we don't have enough. I mean, because there are a lot of people that are especially new, younger, coming in that are excited about cyber.
Do you think it's because you're saying there's a lot of jobs out there, but we just don't have the experienced people to fill the jobs?
So I think that there's a couple symptoms that are going on right now. I think there are companies that don't quite see the threat that cybersecurity actually faces monetary-wise. Companies are always focused on profits and cutting costs and things like that. But they don't quite realize that, once you have a cyber threat or a ransomware or a virus or whatever that comes and attacks your company, that's a lot more money than it takes to actually be prepared for that moment.
Do you think that that's the reason why a lot of people opt for third-party programs so that they're not somewhat responsible for that data being tracked?
Yeah, especially for the smaller business, it's super important to utilize what's out there. There are a lot of Office 365 has a lot of really neat features that have security built into them.
So you don't believe in virus checkers, right? Virus programs or virus checkers?
I mean, I believe in them. There are a lot of really good ones that are out there, but there's only so much that they can do. The most important thing is training. If you have, if your employees are well trained, if you're using, your Windows operating system, the built-in Windows Defender is good enough, typically. But that doesn't mean that I don't recommend the use of third-party.
Well, what's the difference between? So some people don't even know the difference between just a VPN. Like, what does a VPN do for your business?
So a VPN is kind of an interesting subject. I personally don't subscribe to the quality of like third-party VPNs. I think those can be kind of sketchy. The only reasoning is because any data that you're sending over a VPN is able to be sniffed just as well as data that you're sending through your ISP. The only difference is who is actually looking at that data. So if you have an ISP and they're looking at your data, then that sucks. But then if you go and get in a VPN, then they can sniff your data. Or you could have a foreign government. If it's a foreign government that's hosting that server, they can just put a little box in their headquarters or in that server room, and they can sniff what you're doing. So it varies dependently, or it varies quite a bit on who's actually handling the VPN. But if you're talking about like a VPN that's within your actual system, like your own managed security, then yeah, absolutely 100% that's something that you need to invest in.
Yeah, does people know what VPN means?
Virtual private network. So all that is it's just it's a way of connecting to a server, whether it be internally in your community or in your network. It's basically an external network that you're able to connect to locally.
Yeah, that's a bunch of nerd talk, you know.
Yes, yeah.
So basically, it's a scrambled IP.
Right. Yeah,
right.
It's
See, I can talk nerd with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can be a scrambled IP, especially
scrambled IPs. Yeah, but the problem with that is if it was a scrambled IP, sometimes there's a disconnect with your network if it doesn't always recognize that scrambled IP. Is that the way I want to look at that?
Yeah, it could be. If you've got if you're connected to the VPN, and you're not split tunneling, and you're trying to reach something locally within that network, it can throw off some issues.
So what is split tunneling?
So we're going to actually.
This is a quiz. You did not know that this is a podcast quiz. This is not. So it's not just come in here talk Peyton talk. We're talking about a quiz. Just to see how much you know, because then I'm sure H2L is listening to you. Go ahead.
So split tunneling is when only part of your computer is connected to the network. So whether that be like your web browser or a certain file system or whatever, that's split tunneling. But if you don't split tunnel, if you just use fully through the VPN, that means your entire computer is being based off of that network.
You've been trained well.
Thank you. Well, I've been doing this for a while.
Little sensei. The force is with you.
Don't let my age distract you. I've been doing this for a while.
You're way ahead of your, I mean,
Exactly.
honestly, you literally, your mind is like, as soon as I say a word, you just like, you're on it. So to me, that just says how quick you acknowledge, you really are knowledgeable in the cybersecurity world, and that takes you to these levels that you want to be at. So
Right.
I'm talking to someone that's you're forecasting your vision.
Yes.
You know exactly what you want to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to change the world with my cyber knowledge.
Yeah. One podcast at a time
Exactly.
for you, Peyton. One podcast. One day you're going to come back in 5 years later going, hey, I'm going to do another podcast.
That signature is going to be worth $80. You believe it?
Yeah, keep dreaming. So what is your favorite part in this industry when you're talking about cybersecurity? What is that favorite part that you do?
Oh gosh, I love all of it, to be honest. I love talking to people, especially we go to conferences, people drop by. I love having conversations with people that are introducing new technology into the world. But I also love the nitty-gritty too. I love sitting down, working on a Linux box. I love Linux, personally.
Linux is awesome.
Linux is great.
Yeah.
Linux is absolutely great.
Linux has been around for a while.
It has been around.
And so, I mean, if people really understood that there's certain programs out there that are vulnerable and then some that are not, Linux is one of those that has stand the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can program talk with you too.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's nerd talking
It's a
with
great,
you again.
It's a great development environment too. I'm sure you know this.
Oh, absolutely.
Linux is so much better than Windows. When it
Yeah,
comes to
absolutely.
development,
It's definitely a very easy, streamlined.
Yes.
Code talking is very good.
Absolutely.
So you love the networking aspect, which that's really, really important. And for someone like you, that you're in this and you're able to go to those networking programs and meeting people face to face, that's really gives you a lot of face to face time, in front of people. How did you have that confidence in the very beginning, or did you have to build up to that?
Oh, I definitely had to build up to it. I've always been kind of a people person, which is weird for my profession or weird for my interest studies, but getting that confidence, especially to talk to people that are that have been so seasoned in the world of cyber, but that doesn't even have to do with age. It also has to do with just experience in general. Especially when I was just getting into it, there were people that are a hell of a lot smarter than I was.
Yeah, and you were like, "How did you get that smart?"
Yeah,
and you're like, "Well, I'm going to go dig up a book. I'm going to do a little research online."
Right.
And challenges are good, especially when you know that there's someone that says something and it sticks with you, and you're like, how did they know that? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it just takes time. It's just one of those things where you just kind of have to go, oh, okay, they mentioned this thing that's really interesting. I didn't know about it. Right. And I probably made a fool out of myself talking to them, but that's okay.
They probably didn't think anything about it. Because the good thing about that, though, let me just say this. When the one secret into business success is to continue learning.
Right.
You can't learn everything through a textbook. You can't always go to a classroom setting. We pay a lot of money to learn things online, but if you don't implement them and you don't grow from them, you can't be successful.
Yes, absolutely. You can take as many hits as you need to, but as long as you don't learn from them, you're not going to be successful.
No, and that's how we thrive.
Right.
We learn from the mistakes we make, and we're listening, not just doing. So if you're in a room and you're networking with people, listen to what they have to say.
Absolutely.
Makes a big difference on who you are. So let's talk about your conspiracy theory. So you want to tell everybody what your conspiracy theory is all about?
Yeah, so I don't even know if it's considered a conspiracy theory, but it's this aspect of cyber that isn't talked about very often. And I think the reason why is because there are a lot of more pressing issues, and that it seems so far into the future, and a lot of people are kind of focused on it now because we're so behind other countries as far as cyber is concerned. But I believe that quantum computing is going to totally shake up the cyber world as we know it. And the reasoning is because once you introduce this whole new level of calculation, especially when it comes to encryption and decryption, the standards that we know now, or that we're so reliant on, that we're so used to, there's not going to be anything like it that a quantum computer couldn't break. So you're going to have to totally invent a new style of encryption. And it's so much.
So that's different from. Well, I think we've had this discussion before about encryptions, and it's something similar to what we call an SSL, right? Because
an SSL is a form of encryption,
right? It's a form of encryption but we used to do SSL encryption is when you in the beginning was if you had a e-commerce site.
Right.
So if you sold products and you were taking credit cards, you went from an HTTP to an HTTPS, which now it is actually you have to apply an SSL to all of your website.
Right.
So now anything that is a form or capturing any kind of data, it can be a named or just an email, it all has to be encrypted now.
Yeah, absolutely. We collect so much more data now, and I've been building websites for a long time too. We collect so much more data from users now than we did before, and it's not even like an intentional thing. It's just there's so much more that's out there. So having that encryption is super important because I think Google doesn't even let you don't even appear on search results if you're not encrypted, right?
Well, I think what they do is they actually block your website, and it gives a warning message saying that this site is not secure.
Right.
So now you can bypass it, take the chance, and go on it and put your information on it, but you just know that you're being fully aware that this site is not an SSL secured site.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So they don't completely bar you. You can bypass the step if you want to.
Right.
But I'm thinking that before long they're probably going to start omitting your site and throwing it down in the omitted results.
Yes.
And we're going to start seeing a lot of changes online and in social media this next year. I think it's going to throw a lot of marketing people in frenzies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And what we're going to be doing with businesses. And so we need to be paying attention because these things are about to change. And it's going to have a lot to do with cybersecurity as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, and I think just to kind of go back to the point, it's just... So encryption is such an integral part of what we do now. You type in your password, it's protected by encryption, it's protected by that hash. And, with quantum computing, if you're able to break almost any sort of bit level, like 256 bits or whatever, whatever sort of level of encryption you have, if it's able to break that in what used to be, several quintillion years or whatever, and if it's able to break that in a week, you've got a lot of damage that you're going to have to control because it's so much easier to create a decryption program than it is to create an encryption program. So it's a lot harder to create an encryption program for quantum computing than it is to create a that's kind of the point that I'm
so
making.
You're about to go into nerd alert into detail about encryption, de-encryption. So my question is this: if you were someone that has a lot of passwords, right?
Yes.
You should not do password 123,
no.
the normal,
no.
And you should not have less than 10, almost 10 to 12 characters.
Yeah, I think it's 15 now.
So it's 15 now, so it's even gone up.
Yeah.
So it used to be 8 or 9, right? And now it's gone up. So
it's gone up. And character variation, that's another thing that a lot of people don't touch on. Character variation on a per character basis is going to increase your time far more than increasing a letter will. So if you're using more symbols, you're using numbers, capitals, if you're using a lot of those variations in there, that really, really helps your password security. So
I use a program called LastPass, and that has helped me because, of course, when you have to memorize everybody's password, that is just impossible.
Yeah.
And, and is able, so that program alone has saved me. So is that something that you would say that if you wanted...
LastPass is great. Absolutely.
LastPass is awesome. And it also sends out threats. It lets me know if there's a threat on a password, and then I can reach out to a client or even update my passwords as well.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. I think the two things that for just on individuals that I would probably recommend the most, LastPass and two-factor authentication for all of those accounts. So two-factor authentication for LastPass itself and for all the accounts associated with it. I know it's hard to remember passwords and things like that. I get it. It's difficult. Having that password manager really helps, but you have to make sure that your actual account for that manager is secure.
So the biggest problem that I have in this business is the two-factor. The problem with that is that I have to wait to get a text message to the client for them to give me a code.
Yeah.
And if there's a timeout problem, that just holds me back from being able to log in and access their information. So there is a serious situation going on that keeps marketing people holding us back, because we manage a lot of our accounts for our clients. So that's a huge problem for some of us in this industry, and how authentication has moved into this new situation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do they not have delegate access for those?
Well, I mean, like if GoDaddy allows you to do it, you can set up dedicated.
Yeah, that's what I love about GoDaddy.
Yeah, so that allows you to have access, but you got to get access in the first place.
Right.
And then also, let's say, if you need to get into their Google account, of course, you have to wait for them to get the access code and be able to get into it.
Right.
And then that could be a little complicated. So,
okay, I see what you mean.
But no, I use LastPass for just about everything.
Yeah, LastPass is definitely great. I
yeah,
like
it's a
it.
great program. Do you feel like, being that you've been in this industry, how far into this are you willing, where do you see your vision and where you want to be in this industry?
So I don't really know. There's cyber is such a huge platform, and I guess it kind of depends. I'd like to see where H2L takes me. We're growing so much, and the work that we do is so important that it's really difficult to step away from.
Yeah.
But I want to see if something captivates me, if something is interesting. I like to work on stuff that's cool, that's cutting edge, that's new.
And H2L Solution gives you that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great, as long as we can recognize an opportunity. So for someone like you, or someone that's going to school, what do they need to do to get into these internships? Like, who do they need to be going to the college?
Yes.
Who do they need to talk to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Their counselor or whatever?
Yeah, there are two things that I would probably do, especially if you're going into cyber. The first thing that I would do is go to conferences. Anybody in cyber is at
I agree with
cyber
that.
Conferences.
Yeah, bring your resume with you.
Oh, dude, absolutely. We had, sorry, I called you dude. I do that on accident.
Thanks, bro.
That's the snowboarder in me, I guess.
Yeah, is it snowboarder?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
surfer chick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
So, bro.
Yeah. Bro.
So, how do you get into what is that?
The conferences, man.
Yeah, the conferences, dude. So, bring your resume.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Bring a resume. The amount of people that have come to H2L's booth and they've brought their resume, and they've just they've been such a personal person. Maybe the resume wasn't like fully fleshed out, but I like them as a person. I texted our recruitment manager and I'd say, hey, we've got this one person. Let's set up an interview with them and just kind of see how it goes. So the amount of opportunities that you get just face to face with somebody, it really, really helps. You can apply online. It's great.
But the face to face is
makes
a great opportunity, right?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Especially.
But what happens with those that are introverts that are they're shy? How how do you got to just step out of your comfort zone, right? Is that what you're saying?
I would almost say, you kind of got to suck it up a little bit, because and the reason that I say that is because a lot of people in the cyber universe are like that. You're not the only person. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me and they're a little shy just because they haven't done it before. They come and they say, hey, I'm interested in doing this or this or whatever. Typically, they have really, really good resumes, a lot of experience.
And there's something to be said about that, because if you are willing to step out of your comfort zone, come to these conferences, pay attention to what's going on in your community, and go to them and shake people's hands. And I know that with COVID, you don't want to, but just go out and start talking to people. That's really going to get you a step in, because if they're not hiring, they know someone else is. For sure. Take that leap, and you'll never regret doing it. And the reasoning is because nobody's going to be upset at you for trying. Right. You go, maybe they'll not all be interested in you, but they're totally going to understand. They're going to be like, okay, this person's nervous, whatever. Do you feel like there's a generation gap in communication? I think that
There can be, yeah, absolutely. I think that especially with Gen Z and probably a little bit old, like
I'm an 80s chick, so
yeah,
I mean
older than you probably.
Older than me?
Yeah, they're
oh
probably
wow,
a
thanks.
little bit
Okay,
older.
So my thing is that I read some articles about the Gen Z.
Yeah.
What are the things that what kind of advice can you give them, or can you give to people like me on gapping that together? Like, how does that work?
Well, I'll talk to the Gen Z because I feel like we're the biggest problem. Gen Z has a problem with professionalism. I feel like a lot of Gen Z they kind of stick to the. I don't want to say selfish because it's not selfish.
Maybe they think of instance. It's like as soon as we graduate, we should instantly have a job, right?
Yeah,
but not just any job.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
The sense of entitlement may be there. But I think it has to do with just kindness in general. It carries you so long. And that's probably a general thing for both generations. Being kind, being nice, and trying your best to be professional and carry yourself well will get you
very far.
So far. So much further than a good resume will.
Yeah. And smile.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Laugh a little bit.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that just being like a fun person to be around, or just a good person to be around, is so important.
Am I a fun person?
Absolutely. That's why I'm doing this podcast.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So for you, I think it's so important now to really touch base with those that are really getting into this industry. I see a very bright future for you.
Well, thank you.
I think you're definitely going to go very far.
I appreciate
so that. I have a couple questions.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So I figured that's why we're doing this. So.
What is the secret? What is the secret to success for you? What does that mean for you?
I think the secret to success is taking every opportunity that kind of comes at you. If you're like, oh man, I don't know that I really want to do this today, or
don't
whatever.
second guess yourself.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah.
I think you should just go for it.
Just ride the roller coaster is what I call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just know how to ride the roller coaster, because there's going to be some days that are really great, and there's some days that's going to really suck.
Sometimes it's really going to suck, but you can't have those ups without having the downs.
But the thing about that is that you learn a lot from it, and putting yourself in the,
for sure.
Because we can all generally think about where we were, where we started, where do we come from, and where do we go. Right. And so we can't forecast our future, but we can control what's happening to us right now.
Absolutely. We don't like to think about it, but living life is kind of like rolling dice. Sometimes you're going to get good rolls, and sometimes you're going to get really bad rolls, but you're not going to get any rolls if you don't do it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't
So we're just rolling dice now?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
So what do people misunderstand about you? Like, what is the one thing that I think that if they saw you, they thought, oh, he's not smart.
I don't know. Do I not look smart? Is that
me? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you're not smart. I'm saying that I would never guess you as a cybersecurity guy.
Interesting. I've never really thought about it. I do care what people think about me. That's one of my bigger flaws. I put a lot of stake.
When you get this age, you don't care.
Yeah, exactly. You guys.
Me, you guys.
You guys.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys.
I was trying to come up with something.
So here we go in. Okay, so you need to respect your elders. So the reason why I'm asking that is that it's so important to understand who you are as a person, because when people meet me, they didn't realize that they would ask me, well, you're Designed by Carla, you must be an interior decorator. And I was like, no, I'm much more than that.
Right.
But I think that sometimes when we look at people, we don't, what does that role look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I try to portray myself as authentically as possible.
Well, I think you're very smart.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope I guess I hope my looks reflect that. I don't know. Is it a good thing to look smart and be smart?
Yeah, I think both. You must have both now. Because back then it was like nerd was not a word that you want to be associated with. Now it's like, it's the cool word.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I really like the, I think that as a society, we're kind of going in a positive direction when it comes to that sort of thing. I think that being smart and pursuing what you love is becoming more and more the cool thing.
Yeah. Because the reason why I was saying that you don't look like a cyber guy is that were you in theater? Did you like videos?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of things. I was in high school. I was a springboard diver. I was a diver. Loved to snowboard. I've been snowboarding my whole life. But I did theater. I did.
Can you tell us about the last part that you did? The last video you did?
For you, the one.
Yeah,
for H2L?
that's what I'm leading to.
Okay,
I was talking about your H2L star moment that you put out in the courtroom.
That was so much fun. And I actually want to talk about this because this is cool. If you guys want to watch the video, you go to YouTube. You type in H2L Solutions, and I think it's the only video that's public there. So it's the only one that's live right now. But it's called an SOP confrontation. And what it is it's a parody of the A Few Good Men scene, which an amazing movie, by the way. I love that movie. And it is just it's sort of like A Few Good Men if you were to translate it into the cyber world, I think. And it's really fun. I'm in it. I'm Jack Nicholson. I'm the bad guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I loved shooting that video.
I think you had a moment in that video. I think you were definitely channeling
my inner Jack Nicholson?
Your inner Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
I love that scene. My dad, it's one of my dad and I's favorite movies, so we quote it all the time, so I kind of had the energy already.
So your dad your hero?
Yes, 100%. Absolutely.
And do you feel like that he's that role model for you? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that there's a certain part of you that has to live up to some of those standards, or do you feel like you're trying to get to that level so that you can pass on that to your children one day?
Yeah, I'd like to get to that level. But I don't know. I don't know if I will. He's so good at everything.
Well, that's good that you have that kind of relationship.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's important to know that the people that are our role models,
yes,
they'll stay with us forever.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he's a great father. He's a great, he's so good. I don't want to like list all the things he's great at, but he's great at everything.
But I think the one thing that you really have to understand is that he believes in you.
Yes.
Right. Unconditionally.
Right.
And he's allowed you to continue to develop who Peyton is.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's just so supportive, and it almost makes it more intimidating because it's not like, he's not down my throat. He's not like always, you have to be like this, this, and this. He's so supportive, and that almost makes it more intimidating because I want to make him proud, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
I'm going to tell you something. Here's a little secret.
Okay.
You already make him proud.
I hope so.
So, no. I'm just saying that you, so when you think you're trying so hard, when really, honestly, you've been doing a good job.
Okay.
And I have to honestly say, Peyton, you're a blast to hang out with. We can talk nerd.
Yes.
And we can be funny at the same time.
Absolutely.
And make fun of each other.
At least I hope so.
And he makes fun of me all the time. So, apparently, right?
And likewise, right? How many times have I been fired today?
I fired you probably about 6 or 7 times today.
Yeah, at least today. Yeah, so
I've been practicing.
I hope my severance package is good.
No,
okay.
It's not. So you have to earn that.
Yeah.
Peyton.
Okay. Well, I've got my severance package now 6 times.
You've been fired about 6 or 7 times today. So Peyton, I just want to say it's such a joy having you on our podcast.
Absolutely.
I hope that we do many more of these.
Yes, please. I'd love to.
Okay. So great. So thank you, Peyton, coming on to
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
You've been fired again. You just interrupted me.
I'm so sorry. I'm just going to take my headphones off.
No, stay in your seat. I got you. So, Peyton, thank you so much for our Coffee and Hustle podcast. We talked about intergenerational communication and a few other little side conversations in cybersecurity today. Thank you for coming on our podcast, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye.